James Montgomery's hand trembled as he reached for his car door. Not from fear. Not yet. From rage. Pure, blinding rage at the audacity of some random kid grabbing his sleeve outside his downtown office building. "Please don't go," the little girl said again, her dark brown eyes impossibly wide. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old, with 2 puff balls of hair tied with bright red ribbons. Her yellow dress was clean but worn at the edges. "Something bad will happen if you go to that meeting." James yanked his arm away, his jaw clenched so tight his teeth ached. He had 30 minutes to get across town to Richardson Tower for the most important meeting of his career. 30 minutes to close a deal worth $200 million. And this child, this complete stranger who appeared out of nowhere on the sidewalk, was making him late. "Where are your parents?" He looked around the busy street, searching for anyone who might claim this kid. His assistant, Tom Bradford, was already in the car, tapping his watch through the window with growing impatience. "You'll die if you go." The girl's voice was calm, too calm for a child. Matter of fact. Like she was telling him the sky was blue. "The building will fall." James felt ice water dump through his veins. He crouched down, trying to see past the strangeness of this moment into something rational. "What building? What are you talking about?" "Richardson Tower. The one where your meeting is. The concrete is bad. The support beams are cracked. It's going to collapse today at 2:47 in the afternoon." She reached out and put her small hand on his cheek. Her palm was warm. "Real. I see these things sometimes. I don't know why. But I'm always right." Tom knocked on the car window. "James, we need to go now." James stood up, his heart hammering. This was insane. Completely insane. He was a billionaire tech entrepreneur, not someone who took advice from children who materialized on sidewalks. He'd built Montgomery Technologies from nothing into an empire worth billions. He didn't believe in psychics or premonitions or whatever this was supposed to be. But something in that little girl's eyes stopped him cold. "Mr. Montgomery, please?" Her voice cracked now, desperation bleeding through. "I know you don't believe me. Nobody ever believes me at first. But I can't watch another person die when I could have stopped it." "Another person?" James heard himself ask. She nodded, tears forming. 3 months ago, I tried to warn a woman about getting on a bus. She laughed at me. The bus crashed into a barrier on the highway. She didn't make it. The story was too specific. Too detailed. Too real. Tom opened his car door, his face red with frustration. "James, what are you doing? We're going to lose this deal." James looked at his assistant, then back at the girl. $200 million. 5 years of negotiations. His investors were counting on him. His board of directors had staked their reputations on this merger. And yet, "Tom, cancel the meeting," James said quietly. "What?" Tom's voice went up an octave. "Are you out of your mind? Cancel it. Tell them I have a family emergency. We don't have time to reschedule. Hansen Industries has 3 other offers on the table. If we don't sign today, we lose everything." James turned to face his assistant fully. "Then we lose everything. Cancel the meeting." Tom stared at him like he'd grown a second head, but finally pulled out his phone and walked away, already dialing. James looked back down at the girl. "What's your name?" "Nia." "Nia, how do you know these things?" She shrugged, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "I just do. I see pictures in my head. Like watching a movie before it happens. I saw you today and I saw the building falling and I saw you inside. Where do you live? Who takes care of you? Different places. Different people." Her voice got small. "I'm in foster care. My caseworker's name is Miss Rochelle. She's nice. She believes me sometimes." Tom walked back over, his face pale now instead of red. "It's done. They're not happy, but it's done." He paused. "James, are you really doing this because of what a kid said?" James straightened up, suddenly sure of his decision despite how crazy it sounded. "Yes. This is going to cost us everything. Maybe. But I'd rather lose money than lose my life." Nia smiled for the first time, a gap-toothed grin that transformed her serious little face. "You made the right choice, Mr. Montgomery. You're going to help a lot of people now." "What do you mean?" But she was already backing away, disappearing into the crowd of people on the sidewalk. James lunged forward, trying to follow her, but she vanished between 2 women carrying shopping bags. Just gone. "Wait," James called out. "Nia, wait." Nothing. She was nowhere. Tom grabbed his arm. "James, what is happening right now?" James pulled out his phone and checked the time. 1:15 in the afternoon. If the girl was right, if any of this was real, Richardson Tower would collapse in about an hour and a half. "Give me the number for building inspections," James said. "Right now." "You're actually taking this seriously?" "Tom, that little girl knew details she shouldn't have known. She knew where my meeting was. She knew the specific building. She gave me an exact time." James was already dialing. "I'm not taking chances with people's lives." For the next hour, James made call after call. Building inspections. Fire department. Police department. Nobody wanted to listen. Nobody wanted to evacuate a major office tower based on the word of a billionaire who'd gotten a tip from a 6-year-old. "Mr. Montgomery, with all due respect, we can't just shut down a building because you have a bad feeling," the fire chief said. "It's not a bad feeling. I have reason to believe there's a structural issue." "What reason?" James hesitated. "I can't explain it." "Then I can't help you." He tried the building owner next. Then the security company. Then the mayor's office. Everyone gave him the same response. Without proof, without evidence, without something concrete, they wouldn't evacuate. James sat in his car, watching the clock tick toward 2:47. His stomach twisted into knots. If Nia was right, dozens of people were about to die. If she was wrong, he'd just destroyed his reputation and his business deal for nothing. Tom sat beside him in silence, occasionally checking his own phone. At 2:30, James couldn't take it anymore. "Drive to Richardson Tower. Now." "James?" "Drive." They made it to the tower by 2:40. James jumped out of the car and ran into the lobby. A security guard stood at the desk, looking bored. "You need to evacuate this building right now," James said, breathing hard. The guard looked him up and down. "Sir, I can't do that without authorization. I'm James Montgomery. I own Montgomery Technologies. There's a structural problem with this building. It's going to collapse. Sir, I'm going to need you to calm down." James wanted to scream. Instead, he pulled the fire alarm. Immediately, sirens blared through the building. The guard jumped up, shouting at James, but people were already streaming toward the exits. Confused office workers in business clothes, asking each other what was happening. Security personnel rushing to figure out who pulled the alarm. James stood his ground as the guard called for backup. He didn't care if they arrested him. He didn't care if he looked like a fool. He just needed people out of this building. By 2:46, the lobby was nearly empty. Police had arrived. 2 officers were walking toward James with handcuffs out. And then the world shook. A deep rumbling sound like thunder underground. The floor beneath James's feet vibrated. Ceiling tiles started falling. The windows along the east wall cracked in a spider web pattern. "Everybody out!" one of the police officers screamed, forgetting about James entirely. They ran. All of them. Out the front doors, across the street, as far from the building as they could get. At exactly 2:47, Richardson Tower collapsed. It didn't fall all at once. The east side went first, the upper floors pancaking down onto the lower ones. Then the center gave way. Then the west side. In less than 2 minutes, a 30-story building was reduced to a mountain of rubble and dust that filled the air like fog. James stood on the sidewalk across the street, his ears ringing from the noise, his eyes stinging from the dust. People were crying, screaming, holding each other. But they were alive. Tom grabbed James's shoulder, his face white as paper. "How did you know?" James couldn't speak. He just shook his head. The fire chief from earlier ran up to them, his eyes wide. "Montgomery? You're the one who called this in." James nodded. "How did you know?" "A little girl told me." The fire chief stared at him for a long moment, then looked back at the destroyed building. "Then that little girl saved about 200 lives today." James thought about Nia's serious face. Her calm voice. The way she'd smiled when he made the choice to believe her. He had to find her. He had to thank her. He had to understand what had just happened. But more than that, he had to figure out why a 6-year-old foster kid was wandering around the city trying to save people's lives instead of being safe and cared for somewhere. Something was very wrong with that picture. And James Montgomery, who just lost the biggest business deal of his career but saved hundreds of lives, was going to fix it. Have you ever ignored a warning that turned out to be true? What would you have done in James's situation? Subscribe and comment below to let me know your thoughts. This story is just beginning, and what happens next will change everything. ***. The news crews arrived within 15 minutes. Helicopters circled overhead, their cameras capturing the destruction below. James stood behind the police barriers, watching emergency responders search the rubble for anyone who might have been left inside. His phone buzzed constantly in his pocket. Investors, board members, reporters. He ignored them all. Mr. Montgomery. A woman's voice cut through the chaos. I'm Detective Angela Morris. I need to ask you some questions. James turned to face a tall black woman in a blue pantsuit, her badge clipped to her belt. Her expression was neutral, but her eyes were sharp. Of course. How did you know the building was going to collapse? James had been dreading this question. A child warned me. Detective Morris pulled out a notepad. A child? Yes. A little girl about 6 years old. She stopped me outside my office this morning and told me not to go to my meeting at Richardson Tower. She said the building would collapse at 2:47. And you believed her? Not at first. But she was so specific. She knew details she shouldn't have known. What's the child's name? Nia. She said she's in foster care. Her caseworker is someone named Rochelle. Detective Morris wrote quickly. Last name? She didn't say. She ran off before I could get more information. Mr. Montgomery, do you understand how this sounds? James laughed, but there was no humor in it. Yes. It sounds like I'm either lying or crazy. But look at that building, detective. Look at all those people who got out alive because I pulled that fire alarm. I don't care how it sounds. Detective Morris studied his face for a long moment, then closed her notepad. The preliminary reports are suggesting major structural failures. Substandard concrete. Corroded support beams. This building should never have passed inspection. So it wasn't a coincidence. No, Mr. Montgomery. It wasn't. She paused. You saved a lot of lives today. But I still need to find this little girl. If she knew about the structural problems, someone must have told her. This might be connected to criminal negligence or fraud. James felt his stomach drop. He hadn't thought about that angle. What if Nia's knowledge came from overhearing adult conversations? What if she was connected to whoever had cut corners on the building construction? I need to find her too, James said. Can you help me? I'll look into foster care records for a child named Nia with a caseworker named Rochelle. That's a starting point. Detective Morris handed him her card. Call me if you remember anything else. After she left, Tom finally got James's attention. The board wants an emergency meeting. Tonight. Tell them tomorrow. James, they're panicking. The Hansen deal is dead. The investors are furious. You need to do damage control. James turned to face his assistant. Tom, I just watched a building collapse. A building I was supposed to be inside. Right now, I don't care about the Hansen deal. Tom's expression softened. I know. I'm sorry. This is a lot. Go home. Get some rest. Tell the board I'll meet with them tomorrow afternoon. After Tom left, James sat on the curb, his expensive suit getting dirty, and put his head in his hands. His whole life had been about building things. Companies. Wealth. Success. He'd spent 20 years climbing higher and higher, and in one moment, a 6-year-old girl had shown him how quickly everything could crumble. Mr. Montgomery? James looked up to see a woman standing over him. She was beautiful, with dark brown skin and natural hair pulled back in a bun. She wore a green blouse and black pants, and carried a worn leather bag over her shoulder. Her eyes were kind but worried. Yes. I'm Rochelle Turner. I'm a social worker. Detective Morris called me. She said you're looking for one of my kids. James jumped to his feet. Nia. You're Nia's caseworker? Rochelle nodded. She's been on my caseload for 8 months. She's special. Where is she? Is she okay? That's the problem. I don't know. She ran away from her foster home 3 days ago. I've been searching everywhere for her. Rochelle's voice cracked. When Detective Morris called and said Nia had warned you about the building collapse, I came right away. That's how I knew she was still in the area. James felt his heart rate pick up. She's been missing for 3 days? Is that normal? No. And I'm terrified for her. Nia isn't like other kids. She has this ability. She sees things before they happen. Dangerous things. And she tries to warn people. Like the woman on the bus. Rochelle's eyes widened. She told you about that? Yes. Then she trusts you. That's rare. Nia doesn't open up to many people. Rochelle sat down on the curb where James had been sitting. The bus incident broke her heart. She tried so hard to convince that woman not to get on. The woman called her crazy. Called the police on her. And then the bus crashed and the woman died and Nia blamed herself. James sat down beside her. That's a heavy burden for a little kid. It is. And the system doesn't know how to help her. Every foster family she's placed with thinks she's making up stories or seeking attention. They don't believe her until something happens. And then they're scared of her. Rochelle wiped at her eyes. I believe her. I've seen it happen too many times now. But belief doesn't give me the resources to protect her. What does she need? Stability. Safety. A place where people understand her and don't treat her like she's broken or dangerous. Rochelle looked at him. Why did you believe her? James thought about that. Her eyes. There was something in her eyes. Truth maybe. Or desperation. I don't know. But I couldn't walk away. You're the first person who listened to her without seeing proof first. Do you know what that means to a kid like Nia? Before James could respond, his phone rang. It was Detective Morris. Mr. Montgomery, turn on the news. Channel 7. James pulled up the news app on his phone. The headline made his blood run cold. Mystery child saves hundreds. Who is the girl who predicted the Richardson Tower collapse? The news anchor was showing security footage from outside James's office building that morning. There was Nia, clear as day, grabbing his sleeve, talking to him, and then vanishing into the crowd. They're calling her a hero, Detective Morris said over the phone. But they also want to find her. You need to be prepared for this to get bigger. James hung up and showed the phone to Rochelle. Her face went pale. This is bad. If her foster family sees this, if the wrong people see this, they'll exploit her. Use her ability for profit or attention. I've been trying to keep her story quiet for this exact reason. Then we need to find her first. Rochelle looked at him like she was measuring something. Why do you care? You don't know her. You don't owe her anything. She saved my life. And from what you're telling me, nobody's taking care of her the way they should. That needs to change. Changing the foster care system takes time and money and political will. Then it's a good thing I have plenty of money. James stood up and offered Rochelle his hand. Help me find her. And then help me figure out how to help her properly. Rochelle took his hand and stood. You're serious? Completely. Why? James looked back at the destroyed building. Because that little girl gave me a second chance at life. The least I can do is give her a better life in return. Rochelle studied his face, then nodded slowly. Okay. But if you're going to do this, you need to understand what you're getting into. Nia isn't a project or a charity case. She's a real kid with real trauma and a gift that scares most people. I understand. Do you? Because in my experience, rich people like to swoop in and play hero, but they disappear when things get hard. James met her eyes steadily. I'm not going anywhere. They stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Rochelle pulled out her phone. I have some places Nia likes to go. Safe spots where she hides when things get overwhelming. We can start there. As they walked to his car, James felt something shift inside him. For 20 years he'd been chasing success, building wealth, making deals. And in one morning, all of that had been turned upside down. Maybe this was what he was supposed to be doing all along. Maybe Nia hadn't just saved his life. Maybe she'd given him a purpose. Rochelle directed James through the city to places he'd never been. Community centers and neighborhoods where his car cost more than most people's houses. Parks where kids played on rusty equipment. Corner stores where everyone knew everyone. Nia used to live in this area before she went into foster care, Rochelle explained as they parked outside a small library. Her mom struggled with addiction. The state removed Nia when she was 4. Her mom died 6 months later. James felt his chest tighten. That's horrible. It's common. That's the part people don't like to think about. There are thousands of kids like Nia in this city alone. Smart, talented, deserving kids who get lost in the system because there aren't enough resources or people who care. They went into the library. It was small but clean, with children's books lining bright blue shelves. An older librarian looked up from the front desk. Miss Rochelle, the woman said warmly. Haven't seen you in a few days. Hi, Mrs. Patterson. I'm looking for Nia. Has she been here? The librarian's expression shifted. She was here yesterday. Spent most of the afternoon in the reading corner. But she left before closing. Looked worried about something. Did she say where she was going? No. But she checked out a book about buildings and construction. Seemed real interested in how structures hold up weight. Rochelle and James exchanged a glance. Was she alone? James asked. Mrs. Patterson nodded. Always is. That child spends too much time by herself. Breaks my heart. They thanked her and left. In the car, Rochelle leaned back against the seat. She was researching. That's what she does before she sees something. She tries to understand it so she can explain it better when she warns people. So she knew about Richardson Tower before this morning. Probably days ago. Maybe longer. And she's been carrying that weight around, trying to figure out how to stop it. James gripped the steering wheel. Where else would she go? There's a community center about 10 blocks from here. St. Joseph's. She volunteers there sometimes, helping with the younger kids. They drove to St. Joseph's Community Center, a brick building with a faded sign and bars on the windows. Inside, the walls were covered with children's artwork. The smell of cooking food drifted from somewhere in the back. A man in his 50s approached them, wearing a red volunteer shirt. "Can I help you?" "We're looking for Nia," Rochelle said. "Has she been here?" "Nia?" The man's face lit up. "Sure, she was here this morning. Helped us set up breakfast for the kids. That girl's got a heart of gold." "Where did she go?" "Said she had something important to do. Took off around 10 o'clock. He paused. "Is she in trouble?" "No," James said quickly. "We're just trying to find her. She helped me with something important and I want to thank her." The man looked James up and down, taking in his expensive suit and watch. "You're not from around here." "No, sir." "But you care about Nia?" "Yes." The man considered this, then nodded. "She likes the old playground at Jefferson Park. Sometimes sits there and watches the kids play. Says it makes her feel normal." They drove to Jefferson Park. The playground equipment was old and worn, but kids were everywhere, running and laughing. James and Rochelle walked the perimeter, searching. And then James saw her. Nia sat on a bench near the swings, watching a group of children play tag. She looked small and alone, her yellow dress bright against the gray bench. "There," James said, pointing. Rochelle followed his gaze and gasped. "Stay here. Let me approach first. She might run if she sees a stranger." But as Rochelle started walking toward the bench, Nia looked up. Her eyes found James across the playground. And she smiled. She stood up and started walking toward them. Not running. Just walking, calm and certain. "You listened," Nia said when she reached them. "You actually listened to me." James crouched down to her level. "I did. And you were right. You saved so many people, Nia." "I know. I saw it on the TV at the community center." Her smile faded. "But now everyone's looking for me." Rochelle knelt beside James. "Sweetie, where have you been?" "I've been so worried." "I'm sorry, Miss Rochelle. I couldn't stay at the foster home anymore. Mrs. Kent said I was making up stories again. She said if I didn't stop lying, she'd send me back." Nia's voice got small. "I'm not lying. I never lie about the things I see." "I know you don't," Rochelle said gently. "But running away isn't safe. I'm always careful. I know which places are safe and which ones aren't." James felt something crack inside his chest. This little girl, who could see danger coming, had to constantly watch out for herself because the adults around her didn't believe her. "Nia, I want to help you," James said. "Whatever you need, I can provide it." Nia tilted her head, studying him. "Why?" "Because you saved my life. And because Miss Rochelle tells me you don't have a stable place to live." "That's not right. Lots of kids don't have stable places. Are you going to help all of them too?" The question caught James off guard. I could try." Nia's eyes lit up. "Really?" Rochelle put a hand on James's arm. "Nia, Mr. Montgomery is being kind, but changing the system takes more than good intentions." "But he has money, right?" "That's what people always say. You need money to fix things." James looked at Rochelle. "She's not wrong. It's not that simple." "Maybe it should be." James stood up. "Rochelle, you work in this field. You know what these kids need. If money wasn't an issue, what would you do differently?" Rochelle stared at him. "Are you serious right now?" "Completely serious." She was quiet for a moment, thinking. When she spoke, her voice was careful. "I'd start a residential program. A place where kids like Nia could live with trained staff who understand trauma and special needs. Where they'd have consistency, education, counseling, and support. Where they wouldn't be bounced from home to home every few months." "How much would that cost?" "To do it right? At least $5 million to start. Maybe more." James pulled out his phone and made a call. "Tom, I need you to set up a meeting with our foundation lawyers. I'm starting a new initiative." He paused. $5 million to start, with ongoing operational funding." "Yes, I'm sure. Tomorrow morning." He hung up and looked at Rochelle's shocked face. You can't just." "I can. And I am." James looked down at Nia. "But I need your help. Both of you. Miss Rochelle knows the system. And Nia, you know what kids in your situation actually need. Will you work with me?" Nia looked up at Rochelle. "Is he for real, Miss Rochelle?" Rochelle's eyes were shiny with tears. "I think he might be." "Then yes, I'll help." Nia grabbed James's hand. "But I need to tell you something first." "What?" "I didn't just save you from the building. I saved you because you're supposed to do something important. Something bigger than just me. She squeezed his hand. I saw you helping lots and lots of kids. Making things better. That's why I had to make sure you didn't die. James felt goosebumps rise on his arms. You saw that. I see lots of things. Good things and bad things. And you're one of the good things that's supposed to happen. Rochelle wiped her eyes. Nia, we need to figure out where you're going to stay tonight. Mrs. Kent's house isn't safe for you anymore. I have a guest house, James said immediately. It's secure, comfortable, and empty. Nia can stay there until we figure something else out. I can't accept that, Rochelle said. Why not? Because I barely know you. Because this is all happening so fast. Because I'm responsible for Nia's safety and well-being. James nodded. You're right. But consider this, Nia is currently homeless. You're out of immediate placement options. And I have the resources to keep her safe while you do the legal work to find a better solution. Isn't that better than her sleeping in parks? Rochelle looked torn. There are procedures. Rules. Then we'll follow them. But tonight, let's just make sure she's somewhere safe and warm. Nia tugged on Rochelle's sleeve. Miss Rochelle, I like him. You feel safe. And I would know if he wasn't. That seemed to decide it. Rochelle took a deep breath. Okay. But I'm staying there too until we get this sorted out properly. Fine with me. The guest house has 3 bedrooms. As they walked back to James's car, Nia between them holding both their hands, James felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Not the hollow satisfaction of closing a business deal or seeing his stock price rise. Real purpose. The kind that came from helping someone who actually needed help. He glanced at Rochelle, who was watching Nia with such obvious love and concern that it made his chest ache. This woman had dedicated her life to helping kids like Nia, probably for not enough pay and definitely not enough recognition. And Nia herself, skipping between them now, humming a tune. A little girl who'd been handed a burden no child should carry, and who'd used it to save lives instead of letting it break her. James had been saved in more ways than one this morning. Now it was time to pay that forward. James's guest house was nicer than any place Rochelle had ever lived. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, a kitchen with appliances that probably cost more than her car. Nia ran from room to room, her eyes huge. Mr. Montgomery, this is too much, Rochelle said, standing in the doorway like she was afraid to step inside. Call me James. And it's just sitting here empty. Might as well be used. He set down the bags of clothes and food they'd stopped to buy on the way. The bedrooms are upstairs. Pick whichever ones you want. Nia appeared from around a corner. There's a TV bigger than my whole foster room. James smiled. You can watch whatever you want. Really? Really? But maybe after dinner. You must be hungry. As if on cue, Nia's stomach growled. She giggled and nodded. They ordered pizza, and James watched as Nia ate like she hadn't seen food in days. Which he realized she probably hadn't. Not proper meals anyway. Slow down, sweetie, Rochelle said gently. It's not going anywhere. But Nia kept eating, her eyes darting around like she was waiting for someone to take the food away. After dinner, Rochelle got Nia settled in one of the bedrooms with a movie playing. When she came back downstairs, James was sitting on the couch, his laptop open. She's asleep already, Rochelle said. Poor thing was exhausted. I can't imagine what the last few days have been like for her. Rochelle sat down, keeping a careful distance between them. Thank you for this. For today. For all of it. You don't need to thank me. I do actually. Most people in your position wouldn't have stopped their car this morning. They definitely wouldn't have canceled a major business meeting. And they absolutely wouldn't have spent the entire day hunting for a missing foster kid. She paused. Why did you really do all this? James closed his laptop. Honestly? I don't know. Something about Nia's face. The way she was so sure, even when she knew I wouldn't believe her. And then when the building actually collapsed. He shook his head. It made me think about what I've been doing with my life. Building a tech company, making money, closing deals. For what? So I can have a bigger house and a nicer car. Those things aren't bad. They're not enough though. Not anymore. He looked at her. Tell me more about your work. What's a typical day like for you? Rochelle laughed, but there was no humor in it. There's no such thing as typical. I have 32 kids on my caseload. I'm supposed to have 18. I spend my days driving from house to house, checking on placements, dealing with crises and doing paperwork. So much paperwork. 32 kids? And I'm lucky. Some of my colleagues have 40 or 50. That's impossible. You can't properly care for that many kids. Exactly. That's the problem. We're all drowning and the kids are the ones who suffer. She pulled her knees up to her chest. I got into this work because I wanted to make a difference. And I do sometimes. But mostly I feel like I'm putting band-aids on broken bones. James was quiet for a moment. Then he said, what if you didn't have 32 kids on your caseload? What if you had the time and resources to actually help each one properly? That's a nice fantasy. It doesn't have to be a fantasy. When I said I wanted to start a residential program, I meant it. But that's just the beginning. What else needs to change? Rochelle looked at him skeptically. You can't fix the entire foster care system, James. Maybe not the entire system. But I can fix parts of it. Starting here in this city. Do you have any idea how complex this is? The bureaucracy, the regulations, the politics. No. That's why I need you to teach me. He leaned forward. Look, I'm not naive. I know I can't just throw money at this and solve everything. But money is a tool, and right now, people like you don't have enough of it to do your jobs properly. So let me provide that tool. And you guide how it's used. Rochelle stared at him. You're serious? You're actually serious. I told you I was. People say lots of things. Usually they don't mean them. I mean it. James met her eyes. Here's what I'm proposing. Let me fund your work properly. Reduce your caseload to a manageable number. Hire more staff for your agency. Create the residential program we talked about. And use me as a resource for whatever else these kids need. That would cost millions. Maybe tens of millions. I have tens of millions. Why though? Why do you care this much? James thought about how to answer that. This morning, I was willing to let a little girl disappear into a crowd after she saved my life. I didn't even try to help her. I was too focused on my meeting, my deal, my success. And if that building had collapsed with me inside, that's what I would have been remembered for. Deals and success and money. Nothing that actually mattered. His voice got rough. Nia gave me a second chance. And I don't want to waste it on things that don't matter. Rochelle's expression softened. You're going to make me cry, and I hate crying in front of people. Sorry. Don't be. She wiped her eyes. Okay. If you're really serious about this, then yes. I'll accept your help. But I have conditions. Name them. 1. I make the decisions about what's best for the kids. You provide resources, but I maintain professional authority. Agreed. 2. This isn't about publicity or tax breaks for you. If you're doing this to look good, I'm out. I don't want publicity. I want to actually help. 3. You stick around. You don't disappear when things get hard or boring or complicated. These kids have had enough people abandon them. James held out his hand. You have my word. Rochelle shook his hand, and James felt the warmth of her palm against his. She held on for a moment longer than necessary, her eyes searching his face. I think you might actually mean it, she said softly. I do. She pulled her hand back, looking flustered. Okay, well, I should probably get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be complicated. I need to talk to my supervisor, file reports, figure out Nia's placement situation. Whatever you need, just tell me. After Rochelle went upstairs, James sat in the quiet guest house and opened his laptop again. He pulled up his company's foundation documents and started making notes. Programs to fund. Staff to hire. Facilities to build. His phone buzzed with another angry message from his board of directors. He deleted it without reading. For the first time in his life, business wasn't his priority. And that felt right. The next morning, James woke up to the sound of laughter. He walked over to the guest house to find Nia and Rochelle making pancakes in the kitchen. Nia stood on a step stool, carefully pouring batter onto the griddle while Rochelle supervised. Morning, James said from the doorway. Mr. Montgomery, Nia called out. Look, I'm making breakfast. I see that. It smells great. Rochelle turned to him, and James noticed she looked different this morning. Softer somehow. She wore jeans and a red t-shirt, her hair loose around her shoulders instead of pulled back. Hope you're hungry, she said. Nia insisted on making enough pancakes for an army. They ate together at the kitchen table, Nia chattering about the movie she'd watched before bed. James caught himself watching Rochelle more than once, noticing the way she listened so carefully to everything Nia said, making the little girl feel heard and important. After breakfast, while Nia watched cartoons, Rochelle made phone calls. James heard snippets of conversations about paperwork, emergency placements, and supervisor approvals. When she finally hung up, she looked exhausted. How bad is it? James asked. Complicated. My supervisor is supportive but nervous. Having Nia stay here isn't standard protocol. And with the media attention from yesterday, everyone's being extra careful. What do we need to do? I need to file for emergency placement authorization with you as a temporary guardian. It's unusual, but given the circumstances, it might work. Let's do it. Rochelle pulled up forms on her laptop, and they spent the next hour filling out paperwork. Background checks. Financial disclosures. Character references. This is more invasive than buying a house, James muttered. Welcome to the child welfare system, where we assume everyone is dangerous until proven otherwise. James looked up at her. Do you think I'm dangerous? Rochelle's fingers paused on the keyboard. No. I think you're probably the safest thing that's happened to Nia in a long time. Their eyes met and something passed between them. A connection James hadn't felt in years. Maybe ever. Rochelle looked away first, her cheeks slightly flushed. We should finish these forms. Over the next few days they fell into a routine. James worked from the main house, taking video calls and managing his business remotely. Rochelle handled her caseload from the guest house, with Nia always nearby. In the evenings they'd have dinner together, the three of them. James found himself looking forward to those dinners more than he'd looked forward to anything in years. Tell me about your family, Rochelle said one night while Nia colored at the table. Not much to tell. Parents divorced when I was young. Dad was a lawyer, always working. Mom remarried and moved to Florida. We talk on holidays. James shrugged. I don't have siblings. Built my company pretty much alone. That sounds lonely. I didn't think about it much. I was busy building something. And now I'm realizing maybe I was building the wrong things. Nia looked up from her coloring. You were building the right things. You just didn't know it yet. What do you mean? James asked. You had to be successful so you could help people. If you weren't rich, you couldn't do what you're doing now. She went back to coloring. Everything happens the way it's supposed to. Rochelle and James exchanged a glance. She's very wise for 6, James said. She always has been. After Nia went to bed, James and Rochelle stayed up talking. They discovered they both loved old movies and hated coffee but loved tea. Rochelle told him about growing up in a big family, the youngest of 5 kids. James told her about building his first computer in his college dorm room. What made you want to be a social worker? James asked. Rochelle was quiet for a moment. My older brother was in foster care for a while when I was a kid. My mom was sick and my dad couldn't handle all of us alone. They split us up temporarily. The social worker who handled our case was amazing. She kept our family together when she could have easily just processed the paperwork and moved on. She made me want to be that person for other families. Did your mom get better? Eventually. It took a few years, but we all came back together. She smiled softly. I was one of the lucky ones. I got my family back. A lot of kids don't. Is that why you care so much about Nia? I care about all my kids. But Nia is special. She's been through so much and she still has this huge heart. She still tries to save people, even when it costs her. Rochelle's voice got thick. She deserves better than what the system has given her. She's going to get better. We'll make sure of it. Rochelle looked at him, really looked at him, and James felt his heart speed up. You're a good man, James Montgomery. I'm trying to be. The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither of them wanted to name yet. Finally, Rochelle stood up. I should get to bed. Early morning tomorrow. Rochelle, wait. She turned back. I want you to know that what we're building here, it's not just about Nia. I want to do more. The residential program, supporting your work, whatever these kids need. I'm committed to this long term. I'm starting to believe that. Good. After she went upstairs, James sat alone in the quiet house. His phone buzzed with another message from his board. The Hansen deal had officially fallen through. His company's stock price had dropped 12%. His investors were demanding answers. None of it seemed to matter anymore. What mattered was the little girl upstairs who'd saved his life. And the woman who'd dedicated hers to helping kids like her. What mattered was waking up tomorrow and figuring out how to build something that actually meant something. James had spent 20 years building a fortune. Maybe it was time to figure out what that fortune was actually for. 2 weeks after the Richardson Tower collapse, James stood in front of a vacant lot in the neighborhood where Nia used to live. Rochelle stood beside him, looking at the architect's plans spread across the hood of his car. You're really going to build this? She asked. We're going to build this, James corrected. This is your vision, not mine. The plans showed a beautiful facility. A residential center with housing for 30 kids, classrooms, a gym, a library, counseling offices, and common areas designed to feel like home instead of an institution. The construction company says they can break ground next month, James said. 18 months to completion. Rochelle shook her head in disbelief. I've been dreaming about something like this for 10 years. And you're making it happen in weeks. Money moves fast when you have enough of it. A car pulled up behind them and James's lawyer, Patricia Chin, stepped out carrying a briefcase. Morning, James. Miss Turner. Patricia, thanks for coming. Patricia opened her briefcase and pulled out documents. I've drawn up the paperwork to establish the Montgomery Foundation for Children in Care. James, you'll be the primary funder. Miss Turner, you'll be the executive director with full authority over programming and decisions. Rochelle's eyes went wide. Executive director? James, we didn't discuss that. Because I knew you'd argue. But it makes sense. You know this work. I don't. I provide the resources, you make sure they're used properly. I still have my job with the county. Not anymore. James pulled out another document. I talked to your supervisor. She's agreed to let you leave with full support. The foundation will pay you double what you're making now, and you'll have a staff of 15 to start. Rochelle looked like she might cry. James, this is too much. It's not enough. But it's a start. Patricia laid out more papers. We've also established scholarship funds, emergency assistance programs, and partnerships with local schools and medical facilities. Everything's designed to support kids in the foster care system. How much is all this costing? Rochelle asked. Initial investment is $20 million, James said casually, with ongoing operational funding of about $5 million per year. Rochelle sat down on the curb. I need a minute. James sat beside her. Is this too much? Too fast? Yes, but it's also amazing. I just never thought. She trailed off, wiping her eyes. Thought what? That someone would actually care enough to do this. Everyone talks about helping kids in foster care. But nobody actually does anything substantial. And here you are, completely changing the game. I had a good teacher. He bumped her shoulder with his. You showed me what was needed. I just wrote the checks. It's more than checks. You've been coming to visits with me. Playing with the kids at the community centers. Learning the system. She turned to face him. You actually care. Of course I care. Why though? Really? What's driving this? James thought about that. Remember what Nia said? About how I was supposed to do something important. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is what all those years of building a business were for. So I'd have the resources to do this when the time came. Rochelle smiled. You're starting to sound like Nia. All mystical and wise. She rubs off on you. Speaking of Nia, she came running across the lot, having been exploring with James's assistant Tom, who'd become surprisingly good with kids. Miss Rochelle, Mr. Montgomery, look what I found. She held up a rusty key. Do you think it opens something important? Maybe, Rochelle said. Or maybe it's just a key someone lost. Everything means something, Nia said seriously. Then she grinned. Can we get ice cream? They took Nia for ice cream, and James watched as Rochelle helped her choose a flavor and made sure she didn't drip it all over herself. They looked like a family. The thought made James's chest feel tight. You're staring, Rochelle said, catching him. Sorry. Don't be sorry. Just, be careful. Careful of what? Of getting too attached. To this. To us. She gestured between herself and Nia. When the residential center is built, Nia will move there. She'll have her own life. And I'll be busy running the foundation. So this, whatever this is, it's temporary. It's not real life. James set down his coffee cup. What if I want it to be real life? Rochelle's expression shifted. James? I'm serious. These last 2 weeks have been the best weeks I've had in years. Coming home to you and Nia. Having dinner together. Helping with homework and bedtime stories. Building something that matters. He paused. I don't want it to be temporary. We barely know each other. Then let's get to know each other better. Properly. Let me take you to dinner. Just the two of us. Like a date? Exactly like a date. Rochelle looked torn. This is complicated. You're funding my organization. Nia's staying with you. There are professional boundaries. Boundaries we can navigate if we want to. And if it doesn't work out? If we date and it goes badly? Then what happens to the foundation? To Nia? It won't go badly. You can't know that. James reached across the table and took her hand. You're right. I can't promise it'll work out perfectly. But I can promise I'll try my best. And that no matter what happens between us, the foundation and Nia are secure. This isn't about manipulating you into dating me. This is about me being honest that I have feelings for you. Rochelle stared at their joined hands. I have feelings for you too. That's what scares me. Why does it scare you? Because I've spent my whole life taking care of other people. And now here's this man who wants to take care of me, and I don't know how to handle that. You could start by saying yes to dinner. She laughed despite herself. You're persistent. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. Let me think about it. I'll take a maybe. Nia returned to the table, her face covered in chocolate ice cream. Are you two done making googly eyes at each other? Rochelle blushed. We were not making googly eyes. Yes, you were. It's okay. I like it. You're both happy when you look at each other. Nia licked her spoon. And happiness is good. We need more of it. James caught Rochelle's eye and smiled. She smiled back and he felt something settle in his chest. This was what mattered. Not business deals or stock prices or board meetings. This, right here. This moment. Building something real with people who mattered. And maybe, just maybe, building something real with Rochelle too. Rochelle said yes to dinner. They went to a small Italian restaurant, nothing fancy, just good food and quiet conversation. James had offered to take her somewhere expensive, but Rochelle had insisted on normal. I want to see who you are when you're not being a billionaire philanthropist, she'd said. So here they were, sharing pasta and talking like regular people on a regular date. Tell me something you've never told anyone, Rochelle said, twirling spaghetti on her fork. That's a big ask for a first date. I'm a big ask kind of person. James thought about it. Okay. I built my company because I was lonely. Everyone thinks it was about innovation or changing the world, but really, I just wanted to create something that would make people need me. If I was successful enough, important enough, people would have to pay attention to me. Rochelle set down her fork. That's heartbreaking. It worked though. People definitely pay attention now. But are you still lonely? James looked at her across the table. Not anymore. Not since I met you and Nia. James? I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. But I can't pretend I don't feel this way. Rochelle was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I was engaged once. 5 years ago. He was another social worker. We were going to get married, build a life together, maybe adopt kids of our own. What happened? He got a job offer in California. Great opportunity, more money, better career prospects. He asked me to come with him. She took a sip of water. I said no. My kids were here. My family. My community. I couldn't leave them. And he left anyway? He left. And he was angry that I chose my work over him. Said I'd always put other people before us, before our future family. Her voice got soft. Maybe he was right. He was wrong, James said firmly. You didn't choose work over him. You chose purpose. There's a difference. Is there? Because it feels the same sometimes. I've dated since then, but it never works out. Men either don't understand why I care so much about my kids, or they get tired of coming second to my work. You don't put your work first. You put vulnerable children first. Any man who can't understand that doesn't deserve you. Rochelle's eyes got shiny. See, you say things like that and it makes me want to believe this could work. Then believe it. But what happens when you get bored? When helping kids stops being exciting and starts being hard? When it's paperwork and setbacks and frustrations instead of feel-good stories? James leaned forward. I've been showing up every day for 2 weeks. I've sat through bureaucratic meetings that made me want to pull my hair out. I've dealt with regulations and red tape and people telling me no. And I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. 2 weeks isn't very long. Then give me 2 months. 2 years. However long it takes for you to trust that I'm serious about this. About the foundation, about the kids, and about you. Rochelle wiped her eyes. You're making this really hard to resist. Good. Stop resisting. She laughed through her tears. You're relentless. When I know what I want, yes. They finished dinner and walked through the neighborhood, not ready for the evening to end. The streets were quiet, streetlights casting warm pools of light. Can I ask you something? Rochelle said. What do you see when you look at me? What do you mean? I mean you're this successful, wealthy man who could date anyone. Why me? Am I a project? Something that makes you feel good about yourself? James stopped walking and turned to face her. You want to know what I see? I see someone who wakes up every day and fights for kids nobody else wants. I see someone who believes in second chances and hope even when the system tries to beat it out of her. I see someone who's strong and kind and dedicated and beautiful. He took her hand. I see someone who makes me want to be better. Who challenges me. Who doesn't care about my money or my reputation, but about whether I'm actually helping or just playing at helping. James? I see someone I'm falling in love with. Rochelle sucked in a breath. That's a big word. It's the right word. She stood there, searching his face, and then she stepped closer and kissed him. It was soft and sweet and felt like coming home. When they pulled apart, Rochelle was smiling. I'm falling in love with you too. And it terrifies me. Me too. But maybe that's okay. They walked back to the car, hands intertwined, and James felt lighter than he had in years. When they got back to his property, they found Nia still awake in the guest house, playing with Tom's daughter who'd come over for a playdate that had apparently stretched into the evening. How was your date? Nia asked with a knowing grin. It was good, Rochelle said, trying to hide her smile. You're both all glowy. That means it was really good. Tom laughed. Come on, sweetie, time to go home and let these people have some peace. After Tom and his daughter left, Nia looked between James and Rochelle. So are you boyfriend and girlfriend now? Nia, Rochelle said, embarrassed. It's okay to say yes. I already knew this was going to happen. Did you see it? James asked. In one of your visions? Sort of. I saw you both being happy together. I saw you building things. Good things. Things that help lots of people. She yawned. I saw home. Rochelle picked her up. Come on, let's get you to bed. It's way past your bedtime. As Rochelle carried Nia upstairs, James sat on the couch, his heart full. He'd spent his whole life chasing success, building companies, making money, proving himself. And it had taken a 6-year-old girl with an impossible gift and a social worker with a huge heart to show him what actually mattered. Love, purpose, family. The things money couldn't buy but could help build. James pulled out his phone and looked at his messages. His board wanted another meeting. His investors wanted explanations. His competitors were circling, sensing weakness. He deleted them all. Let them think he was weak. Let them think he'd lost focus. He'd finally found what he'd been looking for his entire life. And he wasn't letting it go. What would you do if you found your true purpose? Sometimes the biggest success comes from the smallest moments. Don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might inspire someone else. Asterisk asterisk. 3 months later, the foundation was thriving. The residential center construction was ahead of schedule. Rochelle had assembled an amazing team. And James had never been happier. He'd moved most of his business operations to work from home, only going into the office when absolutely necessary. His board was frustrated, but the company was still profitable, still growing. He just changed his priorities. Nia had settled into a new school near James's house, where teachers understood her special needs and believed her when she talked about her visions. She was thriving, making friends, doing well in her classes. Life was good. Until the phone call. James was at the construction site with Rochelle when she got the call. He watched her face go pale. What? Are you sure? She hung up and looked at James with stricken eyes. Nia's biological aunt is petitioning for custody. James felt his stomach drop. I didn't know she had an aunt. Neither did I. She's been out of the picture for years. But apparently she's gotten clean, has a job, and wants to take Nia. What does that mean for us? It means family reunification is always the priority. If the aunt is fit and stable, the court will likely grant custody. James felt panic rising. But Nia is happy with us. She's stable. She's safe. I know. But the law favors biological family. Rochelle's voice cracked. I might lose her, James. Over the next few weeks, they met with lawyers and social workers. The aunt, whose name was Teresa Washington, seemed genuine. She'd struggled with addiction after her sister's death but had been sober for 18 months. She had a steady job as a nurse's aide and a small apartment in a decent neighborhood. I made mistakes, Teresa said at their first meeting. I wasn't there for Nia when her mama died. I was too messed up with my own problems. But I'm better now. And Nia's my blood. She should be with family. James wanted to argue. Wanted to say that family wasn't just blood. That Nia had been abandoned and needed stability. That they could provide more for her. But he could see the love in Teresa's eyes when she talked about her niece. Could see that she genuinely wanted to do right by Nia. Rochelle gripped his hand under the table. Mrs. Washington, we're not trying to keep Nia from you. We just want what's best for her. I know. And I appreciate what you've done for her. But she belongs with me. That night, James and Rochelle sat in the guest house after Nia had gone to bed. We could fight this, James said. Get lawyers. Argue that Nia's better off with us. And traumatize her in the process? Make her feel like she's being fought over like property? Rochelle shook her head. That's not love, James. That's selfishness. So we just give up? No. We do what's best for Nia. Even if it hurts. James stood up and walked to the window. There has to be another way. An idea started forming. Risky. Maybe crazy. But maybe right. The next day, James asked to meet with Teresa privately. They met at a coffee shop. Teresa looked nervous. Mr. Montgomery, if this is about trying to convince me to give up custody, it's not. I want to help you. Teresa blinked. Help me how? You said you're working as a nurse's aide. What's your dream? If money wasn't an issue, what would you want to do? I always wanted to be a registered nurse. But I can't afford to go back to school while working and taking care of Nia. What if I paid for your schooling? And helped you find a better place to live? Somewhere with enough space for Nia in a good school district. Teresa stared at him. Why would you do that? Because I care about Nia. And I can see that you do too. You're her aunt. You have every right to raise her. But let me help you give her the best life possible. I don't want charity. It's not charity. It's investment. In Nia's future. And yours. James leaned forward. I'm not trying to buy your affection or Nia's. I'm trying to make sure she has everything she needs, no matter where she lives. Teresa's eyes filled with tears. You really love her, don't you? Yes. And I know you do too. So let's work together instead of against each other. Over the next month, James helped Teresa find a 3-bedroom apartment near Rochelle's office. He paid for her to enroll in nursing school part-time. He set up a trust fund for Nia's education and future needs. Most importantly, he established a relationship with Teresa where everyone could be involved in Nia's life. She can stay with you and Rochelle on weekends if she wants, Teresa said. You're important to her. I'm not going to cut you out. The custody transfer happened on a Saturday. Nia packed her things from the guest house, her face serious. Are you mad at me? She asked James while they loaded boxes into Teresa's car. Mad? Why would I be mad? Because I'm leaving. James knelt down. Nia, I could never be mad at you. Your aunt loves you. She's worked hard to be ready for you. That's a good thing. But I'll miss you. And miss Rochelle. We'll miss you too. But we'll still see you all the time. And we'll always be here if you need anything. Nia hugged him tight. You're a good person, Mr. Montgomery. That's why I saved you that day. Because I knew you'd do good things. I'm trying. Rochelle came over, her eyes red from crying. She hugged Nia for a long time. You call me anytime, okay? Day or night. If you need anything. I will, Miss Rochelle. And you can come visit me whenever you want. After they left, James and Rochelle stood in the driveway watching the car disappear. That was the hardest thing I've ever done, Rochelle said. Me too. But it was right. Yes. They went inside the now quiet guest house. It felt empty without Nia's laughter and energy. What do we do now? Rochelle asked. James took her hand. We keep building. The residential center. The foundation. All of it. We help more kids like Nia. And us? What about us? Us too. We keep building us. Rochelle leaned into him. I love you, James Montgomery. I love you too. They stood there holding each other, grieving the loss of daily life with Nia but knowing they'd done the right thing. Sometimes love meant letting go. And sometimes it meant holding on tighter to what remained. 6 months after Nia moved in with her aunt, the residential center was finished. It was beautiful. Everything Rochelle had dreamed of and more. Bright, welcoming spaces. Individual bedrooms that felt like home. Common areas designed for learning and playing. A commercial kitchen where kids could learn to cook. A library full of books. A gym. Counseling offices that felt safe instead of clinical. The grand opening was scheduled for a Saturday in June. The entire community was invited. Local politicians. News media. Families. And of course, the 15 kids who would be the center's first residents. James stood backstage in the community room adjusting his tie. He was nervous, which was unusual. He'd given hundreds of speeches to investors and business partners. But this felt different. This mattered. Rochelle came up beside him, looking stunning in a blue dress that matched her eyes. You ready? She asked. Are you? Terrified. What if this doesn't work? What if we've built this amazing place and it's not enough? James took her hands. It's enough. And even if problems come up, we'll fix them together. That's what we do. She smiled. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. They heard the crowd gathering outside. At least 200 people. Time to go, Rochelle said. They walked out together onto the small stage. The crowd erupted in applause. James saw Nia sitting in the front row with her aunt, grinning and waving. Rochelle stepped up to the microphone first. Thank you all for being here today. This center represents years of dreaming and months of hard work. But more than that, it represents hope. Hope for kids who've been through trauma. Hope for families trying to heal. Hope that we can build a better system, one child at a time. She talked about the programs they'd developed, the staff they'd hired, the partnerships they'd created with schools and medical facilities. Then she stepped back and James took the microphone. I'm not going to stand here and take credit for this, he began. This is Rochelle's vision. These are her programs, her dedication, her heart. I just provided the resources to make it happen. He looked at Rochelle. But I want to talk about what I've learned in the past year. Before I met Rochelle and Nia, I thought success meant building companies and making money. I thought I was doing important work. And maybe I was, in a way. But it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't making a real difference in real people's lives. The crowd was silent, listening. Then a 6-year-old girl grabbed my sleeve on a sidewalk and told me not to go to a meeting. And because I listened to her, I'm standing here today. More than that, I'm standing here as a different person. Someone who understands that real success isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in lives changed. In kids who find stability. In families who get second chances. He turned to face Rochelle fully. And I've learned that the most important thing in life isn't building an empire. Is building a life with people you love. People who challenge you and inspire you and make you want to be better. James pulled a small box from his pocket and got down on one knee. The crowd gasped. Rochelle's hands flew to her mouth. Rochelle Turner, you've changed my life in every possible way. You've shown me what real purpose looks like. What real love feels like. And I don't want to spend another day without you. He opened the box, revealing a simple but beautiful ring. Will you marry me? Rochelle was crying, nodding before she could get words out. Yes. Yes, absolutely yes. James stood up and slipped the ring on her finger and they kissed while the crowd cheered. Nia jumped up from her seat, clapping and shouting. I knew it. I saw this. After the ceremony, after they toured the building and talked to families and posed for pictures, James and Rochelle finally had a moment alone in one of the center's gardens. Did you really see this coming? James asked. When Nia stopped me that day? See us getting engaged? No. But I knew something had shifted the first time I saw you with her. You looked at her like she mattered. Like she was important. Not many people look at foster kids that way. She is important. They all are. I know. And that's why I love you. Rochelle played with her new ring, watching it catch the light. Are you sure about this? About me? About taking on a life that's going to be full of other people's problems and crises? I've never been more sure of anything. Your board of directors is going to hate this. You're spending more time on the foundation than on your company. The company is fine. And if the board doesn't like my priorities, they can find another CEO. Rochelle laughed. You've changed so much. For the better, I hope. Definitely for the better. They sat on a bench, watching the sun set over the new building. Kids would be living here starting next week. Kids who needed stability and hope and love. What do you think Nia will say when we tell her we're getting married? Rochelle asked. She'll probably say she already knew. Fair point. James pulled Rochelle closer. I want to do something else. Something I've been thinking about. What? I want us to become foster parents. Once we're married. I want to open our home to kids who need it. Rochelle pulled back to look at his face. Are you serious? Completely. We have the space, the resources, and more importantly, we have love to give. Why not share it? James Montgomery, you continue to surprise me. Good surprises? The best surprises. They sat there as the sky turned purple and orange, planning their future. A wedding. Foster children. Expanding the foundation. Building more centers in other cities. It all felt possible now. Not because they had money, though that helped, but because they had each other. And they had purpose. Nia came running up with her Aunt Teresa following behind. Are you two done being mushy? Aunt Teresa says we can go get ice cream to celebrate. James laughed. We're never done being mushy. But yes, let's get ice cream. As they walked to the parking lot, Nia took James's hand on one side and Rochelle's on the other. You know what I see now? Nia said. What? James asked. I see a family. A real family. Not the kind you're born into. The kind you choose. She swung their hands. And I see lots more kids getting families too. Because of what you built here. We built it together, Rochelle said. All of us. Teresa put her arm around Rochelle's shoulders. Thank you for helping me get ready for Nia. And for not fighting me on custody. That meant a lot. You're her family. That's what matters. So are you though. Family isn't just blood. It's who shows up. Who cares. Who stays. Teresa smiled. And you two showed up in a big way. At the ice cream shop, James watched his strange, beautiful, chosen family laugh and talk and enjoy being together. He thought about that morning a year ago when Nia had grabbed his sleeve. How angry he'd been. How certain he was that she was wasting his time. If he'd gotten in that car, he'd be dead. But more than that, he'd have missed all of this. This life. This love. This purpose. Sometimes the interruptions were the whole point. Sometimes what looked like a detour was actually the right path all along. James caught Rochelle's eye across the table. She smiled at him and his heart felt full. He'd spent 40 years building the wrong things. But now he was building exactly what mattered. And he was never looking back. The wedding took place 6 months later at the residential center, in the garden where James had proposed. It was a small ceremony. Close friends. Family. The kids from the center. Nia, of course, was the flower girl, wearing a bright yellow dress that matched the ribbons she'd worn the day they met. Rochelle walked down the aisle in a simple white dress, her smile brighter than James had ever seen it. She was beautiful. But more than that, she was his partner. His best friend. His future. They said their vows under an arch covered in flowers. James promised to love her, support her work, and always put people before profits. Rochelle promised to love him, challenge him, and remind him what really mattered when life got complicated. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the minister said. They kissed and the crowd erupted in cheers. At the reception, Nia grabbed the microphone during the toasts. I want to say something, she announced. Everyone laughed and settled down to listen. A year ago, I saw something bad was going to happen. I saw Mr. Montgomery going to a building that was going to fall down. And I almost didn't tell him because people never believe me. The room was silent now, everyone listening to this little girl. But I'm glad I told him. Because if he died that day, none of this would have happened. The center wouldn't be here. Miss Rochelle wouldn't have help for her kids. And I wouldn't have my family. Nia's voice got softer. I see things before they happen. Sometimes bad things. But sometimes I see good things too. And I saw this. All of this. I saw Mr. Montgomery and Miss Rochelle getting married. I saw kids having a safe place to live. I saw love winning. She held up her juice glass. So here's to love winning. Always. Everyone raised their glasses and toasted. After the official reception ended, James and Rochelle snuck away to the garden for a moment alone. How are you feeling, Mrs. Montgomery? James asked. Like the luckiest person in the world. Rochelle leaned against him. A year ago, I was drowning in my caseload watching kids suffer, feeling helpless. Now look at us. Look at what we built. Together. They watched the party continuing through the windows. Kids dancing. Staff laughing. Teresa talking with some of the other parents. I have something to tell you, Rochelle said. I got a call yesterday. From the state. They want to replicate our model in 3 other cities. James pulled back to look at her face. That's amazing. It means we'd need to expand. Hire more people. Raise more funds. We can do that. It also means this is becoming bigger than just our city. We're actually changing the system, James. Like really changing it. That's what we wanted, isn't it? Rochelle nodded, tears in her eyes. I just never thought it would actually happen. I spent so many years fighting and losing. And now we're winning. We're not done yet. There's still so much work to do. I know. But we're making progress. Real progress. A commotion inside made them look up. One of the center's residents, a teenage girl named Keisha, no wait, a teenage girl named Jasmine, no, a girl named... James had to think. Brianna. A girl named Brianna was laughing about something, surrounded by other kids. Rochelle smiled. Brianna's been here 3 months. When she first arrived, she wouldn't talk to anyone. Wouldn't eat. Wouldn't participate in anything. Now look at her. What changed? Safety. Consistency. Adults who show up every day and mean what they say. It's not complicated, really. Kids just need to know they're valued and safe. And loved. And loved. James thought about his own journey. How lost he'd been before Nia grabbed his arm. How empty success had felt. How much had changed in just 1 year. I want to tell you something, he said. I talked to my board last week. I'm stepping down as CEO. Rochelle's eyes widened. What? James, no. You don't have to do that. I want to. The company is strong. We have good leadership. And I want to focus on this full-time. The foundation. The centers. Making real change. He took her hands. I want to be your partner in this, not just your funder. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Building a tech company was fine. But building this with you, it's what I'm supposed to be doing. Rochelle hugged him tight. I love you so much. I love you too. They went back inside to rejoin the party. Nia found them immediately. There you are. You missed the cake cutting? There's still cake left though, right? James asked. Obviously. I saved you both big pieces. As they ate cake and danced and celebrated, James looked around at all the faces. Staff members who'd quit better-paying jobs to work at the center because they believed in the mission. Kids who were finally getting the stability they deserved. Volunteers from the community who showed up week after week to help. This was his legacy. Not a tech company or a stock portfolio. These people. These lives changed. Tom, his former assistant who now ran community outreach for the foundation, came over with his daughter. Boss, James, there's someone here to see you. A man in his 30s approached, looking nervous. Mr. Montgomery? I'm Kevin Harris. I was supposed to be in Richardson Tower that day. For a job interview on the 23rd floor. James felt his stomach flip. You were there? I was running late. Stuck in traffic. I was so angry at myself because I thought I'd blown this opportunity. And then I saw the building collapse on the news. Kevin's voice shook. If I'd been on time, I'd be dead. And I heard what happened, how you evacuated people. I just wanted to say thank you. I didn't do anything. Nia did. You listened to her. Most people wouldn't have. Kevin held out his hand. I have a daughter now. She just turned 1. I get to watch her grow up because you listened to a little girl's warning. So thank you. They shook hands and Kevin walked away. Rochelle slipped her hand into James's. You saved so many people that day. Nia saved them. You both did. As the night wound down, James and Rochelle stood on the center's front steps, saying goodbye to guests. Teresa drove away with Nia, who waved from the back window. She's coming back next weekend, right? James asked. Every weekend just like we planned. And summers. Good. The house feels wrong without her. We could fix that, Rochelle said carefully. What do you mean? We talked about fostering. What if we made it official? Started the process. James felt his heart speed up. Really? Really? We have the home study approval. The training is done. We're married now. There are kids who need families. Rochelle looked up at him. What do you say? I say yes. Absolutely yes. They called the placement agency the next Monday. By Wednesday they had their first placement. 2 siblings, ages 7 and 9, who needed emergency housing. The boy Marcus, no, the boy wait. The boy Tyler and his sister Hannah arrived with garbage bags full of their belongings and expressions that broke James's heart. Hi, Rochelle said gently. I'm Rochelle and this is James. Welcome to our home. Tyler, the older one, stood protectively in front of his sister. How long do we have to stay here? As long as you need to, James said. We have rooms ready for both of you. And we're going to make sure you're safe and taken care of. That's what they all say. I know. But we mean it. Over the next few weeks, Tyler and Hannah settled in. Slowly. Carefully. Testing boundaries and waiting for the other shoe to drop. But James and Rochelle showed up. Every day. For homework help and doctor's appointments and bedtime stories. For nightmares and meltdowns and moments of joy. And gradually the kids started to trust. One night, about 2 months after they'd arrived, Hannah came downstairs after bedtime. James, she said quietly. He looked up from his laptop. Hey, sweetheart. Can't sleep? I had a bad dream. Want to talk about it? She climbed onto the couch next to him. I dreamed that you and Rochelle sent us away. Like everybody else does. James's throat got tight. We're not sending you anywhere. You're part of our family now. Really? Really? For as long as you want to stay. Hannah leaned against him. Can I tell you something? Anything. I like it here. I like having my own room and going to the same school and knowing what's going to happen each day. She paused. And I like you and Rochelle. You're nice. We like you too, Hannah. So much. Tyler likes you too. He just doesn't want to say it yet because he's scared you'll leave. We're not leaving. I promise. Hannah fell asleep on the couch and James just sat there holding her, his heart so full it hurt. Rochelle came down and saw them. She took a picture with her phone, smiling through tears. This is it, she whispered. This is what we're building. A family. Yes, a family. 6 months later, Tyler and Hannah's caseworker asked if James and Rochelle would be interested in adoption. The children's parents had lost custody permanently, and the kids had asked if they could stay. "They feel safe with you," the caseworker said. "They're thriving. And they want this to be permanent." James and Rochelle said yes immediately. The adoption was finalized on a Tuesday afternoon in family court. Tyler and Hannah officially became Montgomery children. They celebrated with pizza and ice cream and watching their favorite movies. That night, after the kids were in bed, James and Rochelle sat in their living room. "Remember when you asked me what I wanted?" Rochelle said. "That first day we met? I remember. I wanted to make a difference. To help kids who needed it. To build something that mattered." She looked around their home, now filled with children's laughter and love. "I think we did it. We're doing it." Present tense. This is just the beginning. The beginning of what? Everything. James pulled her close. More centers. More programs. More kids finding safety and love. "We're going to change this entire system, one child at a time. That's a big goal. We've done bigger things. We built this." Rochelle smiled. "You know what the best part is? Nia was right. She said you were supposed to do something important. And you are. We are. Together." Outside, a car drove by. Inside, their children slept safely. And tomorrow they'd wake up and keep building. Keep fighting for kids who needed someone to fight for them. Keep showing up. Keep loving. Because that's what family did. Real family. The kind you chose and built and protected. James thought about that morning standing on a sidewalk, annoyed at a little girl who'd grabbed his sleeve. He'd thought she was wasting his time. Instead, she'd given him purpose. She'd saved his life in more ways than one. And now he got to spend that life doing something that actually mattered. Building a legacy of love instead of just success. Changing lives instead of just making money. Being a father, a husband, a force for good in the world. The business deal he'd missed that day would have been worth $200 million. But this, what he had now, was priceless. And he wouldn't trade it for anything. Not for all the money in the world. This was the real success. This was what winning actually looked like. Love, purpose, family, hope. And it had all started with a 6-year-old girl who'd seen danger coming and refused to stay silent. Who'd saved a billionaire's life and, in the process, helped him build something worth living for. James looked at the photo on the mantle. Him and Rochelle on their wedding day, surrounded by kids from the center. Tyler and Hannah on either side. Nia right in front, grinning her gap-toothed smile. This was his empire now. Not built on money or power, but on love and second chances and the belief that every child deserved safety and hope. And he was going to spend the rest of his life making sure that belief became reality for as many kids as possible. Because that's what heroes did. And Nia had been right about one more thing. James Montgomery was supposed to do something important. He just hadn't known what it was until a little girl with yellow ribbons in her hair showed him the way. Now he knew. And he was never stopping. This wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning.